Welcome back to Take One with Ronnie Lloyd Nanos. Today we have the cast and crew of Snow Falling on Pumpkins, which had their Vegas premiere last night at the Galaxy Theater in the Boulevard Mall. We have director Jeff London and this fabulous cast and crew. Jeff, tell us about the film. Tell us about this wonderful independent film that you wrote, directed from scratch. We filmed it in 4 days.
He did the makeup as
You
well,
did the
too.
makeup as
You
well.
guys did
Tell
all
us,
your
tell
own.
us about this film. Tell us what it's about, why you did this.
It's about a man about age 43, and the doctor tells him that he has what is not very commonly known as early onset, or also called young onset Alzheimer's,
Hmm.
and affects people between the ages of 40 and 50. Usually, it's very uncommon, as most with Alzheimer's. Uh, there's no real cure for Alzheimer's, and he finds out he falls in love. These two guys, their characters fall in love, and in a brand new relationship around October, the
Oh
holiday
my
season
goodness.
beginning, and he has to give him the bad news that this is this is this is how we're entering this new marriage with me and this what's eventually going to you know be a life altering you know uh, maybe the end of the character's life eventually, and so
Wow.
they have to deal
I
with
guess
this.
I know the time frame of this film is about what 3 months worth of
Three
time,
months.
and again, it's such beautiful performances by your leads and by your supporting cast. I think it's neat. Jay here brought up a point about making independent film and how important the independent film is, the voices and the things that are being seen out there that are making the differences in strides. And Mel himself being an advocate for the LGBT community and in so many ways that he it was there in some of your first films, which in queer cinema when it was not the common thing. So I really would like to discuss more of that. Jay, you had brought that up about independent film earlier. Jay is one of our supporting characters, a fantastic comedic relief in the film. Please tell us a little bit about that.
Well, what I was saying to you earlier is that, with all the changes that have gone on in traditional Hollywood this year, with the strikes that just got resolved, and the studios going through a lot, independent films are getting made. Their cycle is a lot quicker because if you look at the cycle of this movie we shot in March, and here it is December, and we're already at distribution. And not to plug Mel so much, but he is in 3 movies this year that all shot this year.
Absolutely.
And they've all been distributed, and it's so there's the indies are the ones that are getting it done,
Wait, wait,
and
wait.
telling great stories.
And absolutely, Jeff bringing in this again, this cornucopia of so many great personalities. Mel, Ben, Michael, and Paul, of course, and Jay again, all from such different backgrounds coming in. It was such a little special time. I mean, it's great when we do these Q&As in front of the audiences that have seen it both in LA and here. And Mel, you always have such wonderful insight. And again, it's always so inspiring what you share with the audiences, not just on screen, but you know how much you deeply believe in the work that you are doing and in Jeff's work. It's to please, I mean,
Mhm.
share that with our audiences here. Just, what makes you choose the types of films that you are doing? You've been involved in the film industry a long time, but why some of these smaller independent films? Why is this important?
Thank you for the question. And I mean, I did my first film with Jeff. It was 10 years ago, but at the time, I couldn't get arrested playing a gay character, which was a weird because I had auditioned for what was that show? Uh, oh God, Modern Family,
Oh,
and
yes.
then they were like the agent was like, you know, "But you're gay, but you're not gay. Don't be too gay." And
Hmm.
so I went in and I like did the not gay version of gay, and then of course they cast the two
What is
guys that
that?
were real,
What is the
but
not gay
it
version of
was like
gay?
a stereotype. So I was always getting character roles or drunk hillbillies or different things. And,
Which are the not gay versions?
dads or weirdos. But so Jeff, when I had the opportunity to play a gay role, it was a big deal for me personally
Absolutely.
because I've been openly gay, openly pos actor since I mean, so I just what I love about Jeff London, he's been doing this for almost 30 years, making LGBTQ stories. And so for me, there was a tremendous opportunity. And now I'm suddenly doing all this queer stuff because this is the way, I mean, the paradigm has shifted. We
Mhm.
have more gay content, and also the idea that it's just a stereotype, and has changed too.
And I think it's so important now, and I love that you shared that you're an openly paused actor, especially with the administration nowadays. I think, again, we just had World AIDS Day, and our administration does not recognize it as well. So I think being pioneers and still really advocating for something that a lot of people became very complacent about.
Right.
I mean, we come from a generation that we grew up when AIDS was a brand new disease, where people were dying left and right, and we've come so far, and the lack of funding that and this is my own opinion on that, is going to be withheld. It just seems the way it might be taking some of these steps backwards. So I love that
It's
you
already
do share
happening,
that.
actually. I mean, I almost died of AIDS in '97. I had seroconverted when I was 19, and then
Wow.
a few years, 8 years later, I almost died. So the miracle for me is I got to live because all these new drugs had been developed, and
Hmm.
I had lost a lot of friends. Many of us lost,
Oh, yes. I was in San Francisco the first time I ever saw anybody taking medication. At that time, it was called heart therapy, I believe.
oh wow.
So
So
wow.
at the time that I decided, when I came out like publicly, even that was a big step. And I had people telling me don't do that. But I was like, I'd survived, and but I guess my point is that we were lucky enough to survive. And then the medication has become so easy for people
Oh,
that it's
yeah,
great.
absolutely.
But this last year in January, PEPFAR funding was cut. And
Yes.
so that assists people around the globe. And so it's estimated that this year 150,000 people have died from the lack of AIDS medication, which is just available. Like we could
Which,
just give it to them.
which is there.
Yeah. So, and including 15,000 children. And they estimate that if these cuts stay in place, that it's gonna be in the millions
And it
of
takes
people that
away
will
from
be dead.
even the AIDS education that people, again, even whether we realize, there are still the stigmas of HIV education, that not everybody even knows that you equals you.
Right.
That again, and we've come so far and educated people that now less people are going to become stigmatized again, and that
And
is a
so what
worry.
you're talking about, for people to don't know, is undetectable means that so if
Absolutely.
people are having treatment, then the disease doesn't spread. So people can live. And we're so close, like they're so close to vaccines and all that. Right now, like the developments are amazing.
Hmm.
It would be so, but in the meantime, we don't want people to die. I can't stay, look, when I almost died, I was very lucky. The new pills had come out. There were still people on the AIDS ward that I was on that were
They were
dying left and
dying.
right around me. So I can't sit here and pretend like I don't care that millions of people could be dying today because they don't have access to drugs.
Oh,
So I
absolutely.
talk about it.
No, that's great. Again, and that's why I think, again, films like just about the LGBT community, again, middle America queers, that, why do you write these you- small town queer films? I mean, what makes you connect to that? Why is that?
Well, I'm one of those very people, and about 30 years ago, I wanted to be involved in the LGBT community, and I wanted to say something through film. But the only films I was coming across were like city, and nothing against city. We've lived in cities,
Absolutely, yeah.
but
Urban gays.
yeah,
Urban gays,
urban
we've been
gays.
there.
It's
We've
like
been them. Out of
I'm not that,
class.
I don't go to bars. I'm not lovesick.
Right.
It's just me at home with my dogs.
Uh-huh.
My friends would come by and say, "Hey, you want to go? We're going to go to the bar." I'm like, "No, I'd rather spend my free time at home with my dogs because I worked all week."
Uh-huh.
That's just me. Well, but there was no outlet for, small
I
town
think you're right.
Americana, you know, gay guys.
Absolutely.
And I thought I need to represent this. This is to me, it's just my opinion. To me, this is the community. It's the real guys, the blue collar guys that, work all week and they come home and, we're expected to what? Watch a movie about guys, lovesick guys going to bars and
To
not finding
bars and
love. And it's like,
doing a bunch of
my,
poppers,
my
and
near
they did
city's 2 hours away,
drugs.
and I don't want to live. I can't live like that. I've always kind of I positioned myself in small towns,
Absolutely.
and I draw a lot from that. Like it'll be winter, when I lived in Klamath Falls, Oregon, for 5 years, and I bought a tiny little, 1 bedroom house, and I was in there with the fireplace going, and I was writing, and then came summer. I was writing some of my,
I didn't know
bigger
you lived
projects.
in Plymouth.
And
I lived in Plymouth Fall, and I didn't. My aunt lived in Plymouth.
I've never
see how
heard of
we're
it.
all connected. Souls are all
Sounds
connected.
lovely.
connected. And my distributor in LA would say, "Why are you living there?" And I was like, "Just FedEx me the proof
I
so I
get
can
that, but
look
I'm
at it."
based in Amarillo, Texas, and I work in Las Vegas,
Lovely.
LA, and different places.
I've been in LA for a year.
I remember we spoke
Well,
about
we didn't
that.
know each other
We
then.
didn't
See how
then.
we're
That
connected?
we are, which is interesting too. Again, I love. We had a question last night from one of our people in the audience, and I love this question. What, and this is going to be kind of a two-part question here. What is the significance of the title "Snow Falling on Pumpkins," and what made you really want to make a film about early adult onset
Yeah,
Alzheimer's? Had you ever
it
experienced
was like a
anybody that's gone
sidestep,
through that?
wasn't
So
it? It
yeah,
was.
why was
Well, I
this the
contemplated.
subject
It's
matter?
I do these. Boys fall in love, or some people want to call them, boohoo cry boy movies. That's my own little
I
thing,
cried.
because
Did
my
you?
movies are all they get there eventually
Mhm.
emotionally, and well, I thought just I don't know if it was my spirit guide talking to me for a few years, and this idea kept coming up in my head, and I
Mhm.
needed to listen, and I thought what if we take something that everyone ultimately is affected by Alzheimer's?
Hmm.
We all know someone, or we've taken care of someone, and bring it into the LGBT, life.
Hmm.
And what if I sidestep and not do boy meets boy and falls in love and all happy ever after
Hmm.
Hallmarky, and
We
I'll
did
take
that
and I
already.
take we did that, and and take it into a real world situation. These guys are dealing with a real world, this this everyday kind of issue instead
Uh,
of and let's make it Alzheimer's. And I thought, what if do people, I was looking on research. I always do a lot of research before I sit down and write because
mhm.
I don't want to I don't want to get the facts wrong. I
Right.
don't want someone to say, well, that's bullshit. That doesn't really happen in the world. Well, these things do
These do
happen.
happen.
And I thought, do young people get Alzheimer's? And it said there is this thing called early onset Alzheimer's or young onset Alzheimer's. It's the same thing
Hmm.
between 40 and 50. And I'm like, oh, light bulb. And then the title kept coming to me, Snow Falling on Pumpkins. I was going to use it for a previous movie title, but it didn't fit. And it kept coming up again. You need to use this title. You need to use this title. So Snow Falling on Pumpkins refers to it has this metaphoric title name. There's seasonal changes in all of our lives, and we change with seasons. And then the snow being the white part that shows up sometimes on X-rays that doctors will refer to, and the brain being the pumpkin part. So you've got that dual type of meaning. So
The symbolism. I
it,
think
it seemed to work and fit.
it is crazy. Before she asked that question, I was speaking with with the lead actors Ben Stiller about it. I'm like, I honestly don't know what the meaning of this title is. I need to ask Jeff that. So it's really great that Neon asked that last night because I was going to ask that anyway. And again, being in the film, I'm like, I should know what that is.
It's
And
also, of course, like just on a literal level, that time from October into the coldness. It's right that
absolutely,
precious time we're
It
in
does.
right now, actually. Yeah.
absolutely,
And also it was the title of it because it was
it
rain
rained
It was
falling
falling
on
on
pumpkins
Oh,
pumpkins.
right.
originally.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
it's one of those happy things it was rain falling on pumpkins, and I suddenly we sat down, we talked about marketing, and I thought something's not right, and I think maybe it was my husband. He said, and somebody said, what about snow falling? I said, snow, this is marketing 101, but snow markets and translates better to audiences than rain. Now if I said it if I still haven't done my Southern squeaky screen door rain movie.
Uh-huh.
With the guys. It's always in my scripts where the guys kiss in the living room and they storm out onto the front deck of the house. And the screen door slams and it's raining down, and that's my Southern movie. I'm still going to make that movie.
Awesome.
Uh,
Yes,
but
sure.
You had a
because I just
wet
love that
t-shirt?
whole,
Yes.
I love that whole vibe, that whole feeling. Again, Americana, small town America. But then snow, I thought, okay, snow is going to translate better. The audiences are going to pick more up on the holiday vibe. The actors against the snow, maybe on a cover, the art,
Uh-huh.
the artwork,
Hmm.
and it's just going to translate better. And snow falling, and then uh, beautiful Paul here, we were talking on the phone. He said, "You do understand what your title means," and so we clarified. He said, it's a medical loose medical
Mm,
term of the whiteness showing up on an X-ray on the
mm,
brain, and the brain being the pumpkin.
mm.
And I'm like, well, see, I was supposed to
There
name
you go.
still
It was
call it a pumpkin
supposed to
that
be
way.
that way. It was
Yeah,
great
Yeah.
having Paul on set as well.
Paul's
I just,
great.
Paul is
Oh, his
amazing.
scene is amazing.
It,
But I just wanted to sort of double dip and say that there's something about Jeff telling the story about early onset Alzheimer's and the relationship to the gay community and
Mhm.
like this real life thing that we all have to go through. And there's a resonance there because it oddly enough, it's sort of like what those of us who were old enough and remember when we went through the AIDS crisis. There's like
Uh-huh.
it's this thing that what we're really doing here is we're all learning how to love and support each other, which is a beautiful
Well,
part about what this film
and how it
really is.
relates to that age group, we come from that time when you were diagnosed. It was such a quick way before it was fatal. So this being such a quick illness,
Mm,
it triggers
similar.
that emotion to us.
That's
Going,
very
I know what it's
much.
like to lose somebody that fast. Again, it was great. I wanted to mention Paul. It was great when we first saw Paul. We connected because as a Texan, you came on and said you had a cowboy hat. I remember that. And there's a cowboy on. Cowboy. I'm cowboy. Most of my personas I do are usually in that
I hear
perspective.
you.
But so and so Paul is our executive producer. I did want to share that as well. But he just one of the most. He brought such a great energy. What I loved again is having. Which do you usually use primarily, dominantly queer actors in your films?
Interestingly, no, you were talking about early in the days,
Hmm.
and when you couldn't get arrested sometimes. Boy, I've done this for next year will be 30 years, and this is my 10th feature, and I've gone through the whole gambit of, well, I don't feel comfortable, straight actors playing. Here's a little secret for Jeff London's earlier movies.
Okay.
Now, this can bite me this can bite me in the ass, and I don't know how to say this, but I discovered early on that if I tried to cast straight actors playing these gay characters, I would get I would get these I would get the type of character I wanted. I would get the I hate to use the word masculine.
I get what you're
I
saying.
always put my breakdown masculine. I never put macho. I put masculine. I want people to know
Oh,
because
Joe.
again, I was coming from a place where I saw these gay movies, these gay
Mhm.
romance city movies, and I just couldn't relate to the characters. They were too stereotyped. We all appreciate all types of people in the world, but those were my movies were going to be for middle America, small town America. I need regular Joes,
Mhm.
regular guys that were masculine guys, just regular guys playing these parts. And so I would put that on my casting breakdown, and it turned out that most of the actors I would cast were straight, but they were comfortable. Now, as we all experience in this business, there were times where some people would say, I appreciate it, and I thought about the script,
Right.
but I'm not comfortable kissing a guy.
Oh my.
I've had one actor I've used in two movies, and he's a great actor. And when I there's a movie I did called A Warm Wind,
Mhm.
and I don't think anybody knows this. We shot a kissing scene between the two guys,
Mhm.
and he confesses his love for the lead character. Now, the actor said, I just don't. He's a Texan,
Mhm.
great guy, super
Mhm.
handsome,
I know some
and
good
the
Texans.
handlebar mustache, the whole thing. And he said, I just don't feel comfortable kissing a guy.
Hmm.
Well, I said, why don't you approach this as a job and stop being a little bitch?
Oh, well, nothing better than calling it straight.
Yeah.
Oh, the reason I even asked
And
it,
he called me 2 days later and said, you know what? I thought about what you said, and
and
that's
he
all
did.
it is.
But
Well,
That's all it
Jeff,
is. It's just like kissing a girl.
didn't
And I'll do it, Jeff.
there you
And we
go.
shot it, and I didn't put it in the movie. And I didn't put it in the movie because A Warm Wind was a different kind of
It wasn't that.
mainstream type of movie. I wanted to make the movie about the returning Marine, but we're going back in and we're going to put that scene back in
Oh
Oh,
and revisit
wow.
the movie.
Well, again, even in this one, we have queer actors playing roles. Actually, I mean, we have Jay and Michael playing straight roles. How is that for y'all playing straight roles, and and the position that your characters take in this film in particular? What is that like for you playing those roles?
I mean, personally, like any role, every character I look at is like a blank canvas.
Absolutely.
So I felt almost compelled to feel like, it's just like for me, acting is a form of therapy. So getting to leave my own persona and being dedicated to whatever character conflicts and whatever the inertia is to keeping the story true and kind of depicting it from my own life was, all those challenges of just being able to, I know I don't like to use the term macho, and you get a dog named
I
Macho.
remember we missed Macho.
No.
And great answer.
Yes.
Again, it's just acting. We're hired as actors. That is our job. I wanted to kind of go on and continue here with Ben Stober, who is, Las Vegas, has done a lot of work here in Vegas. What was it like coming back to Las Vegas to bring this premiere into town, to see some of our old friends out here, what you've done since, and why this was important to do this out here, and why this film and connecting with our community out here from what you and I have worked a lot together in the past, and what this is a bit of a homecoming for us last night.
Well, it was very much so. I've lived in Vegas for almost 20 years and working with the film community for about a decade, and hearing a lot of filmmakers that feel that they need a large, ambitious budget. We're talking maybe $100,000 plus to be able to tell their story, make a feature film. And that was why during the time of COVID, coming up and working with Jeremy Settles, Got Films, and creating Lucky Sevens Film Challenge to give filmmakers a chance to shoot a feature film in 7 shooting days, $7,000, that it was possible to create more work opportunities here. And there were 3 filmmakers that were successful in that. And meeting Jeff London through a friend, Lisa Hines, who was the casting director on A Wonderful Life, the first film that I worked with Jeff London and also Mel and David on, gave me the opportunity to get to know a new filmmaker whose work I wasn't familiar with, and to again find that he does these films on a small shooting range of days and budget. I wanted to see that this would be possible, and the fact that he tells these stories that are again very homegrown, much more real and grounded, less so
Mm.
compared to the likes of the chiseled, shredded, ripped hunky guys that you see in a lot of the LGBTQ films that I
What?
just found very distracting. And again, I
No.
thought that after working with A Wonderful Life with him on, that I wanted to take part in this next film, which was going to be a lot heavier, again, much more intense, dramatic, and getting to play a lead male role with, again, a wonderful co-star with Mel, who I got to work with already on a previous film,
Oh,
was really
y'all
sweet.
gonna make out again?
It's something that you were talking about a lot last night, Ronnie, and I think it's an important thing because Jeff's been doing it for a long time. But as I was going into to shoot this film, and then I had just come. I think I was going back to LA to do the other back to back.
Hmm.
But what was happening at that time is that director I had called him, and he was like, everybody's telling me I'm the only thing that's shooting in Los Angeles right now. And he also was working on a micro budget. And
Wow.
so what's happened is that the business is actually completely, well, there's an earthquake, literally and metaphorically, in Los Angeles. The whole industry has kind of like upended itself.
Mm.
And so the people who can work at this level are the people that are actually getting things done.
Yes,
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
we'll continue working as
Yeah.
well.
oh,
Again,
absolutely.
I wanted to, just, kind of wrap this all and get this together. Where can we find this film now? I know it is streaming as well, and let's get some final words from you, Jeff, on where they can see this film, and let's get a lot more
I
people
wanted to
watching
add one
this.
more note about the real
Absolutely.
quick about the earlier days we're talking about, like you couldn't get arrested. I did have a fair amount of gay actors
Uh-huh.
that would apply for my movies.
Hmm.
Many auditions over the years. I hate auditions. And anyway, but I would get that call after I'd hire some gay actors. Sometimes they often would turn out to be in fear of their career,
Right.
and
Wow.
I would get that call. Like I would get a call, much like they say, well, I can't do any kind of side nudity or partial nudity. My agent said they'll drop me, which I don't believe,
Right.
and I think that's fear based. But I got a lot of calls over the years of saying, you know what, I can't, I don't want to expose myself. I don't want to play. I know it's a gay character, but I'm gay, and I might lose work, my agents, and all that fear factor, and it's like I just don't have time to dick around for a
That
while.
that that was that was that was me actually. Had it been 2 years before we
Yeah,
did
yeah,
Best
Hmm.
Day Ever,
yeah.
I wouldn't have
Wow.
Yeah,
because and then I got cancer, and then my whole life, and I was like, what's
It
going?
puts things in
And
perspective.
that's when I came
Yeah.
out as an openly
Okay.
pause actor, and
Absolutely.
suddenly I was like, why am I hiding?
No,
But a lot
Yeah.
that was the
Bill,
rule
I
everybody
feel that
had.
Bill,
If
in
and
you're
just
yeah,
my
gay, you
real
couldn't
life.
be gay. And
if someone
so
doesn't change the business,
Well, yeah,
we're gonna
that's
change.
it. Again, those of us that live in that kind of real life, and again, I live in a very conservative part of the country where again, but I've always lived freely as myself, even when it wasn't the common thing to do. Now it's so much more accepted. In fact, just being a regular cisgendered male gay dude, you may as well be Mormon. You're not interesting enough anymore. Wow, I'm not
I know.
all these other things.
Yeah.
Cool. It's I'm like I'm boring now.
We're here on earth to fulfill our true purpose,
Mhm.
we truly are. And if you just throw everything away to the side
Uh-huh.
and just live who you are, you'll have a happy life. Be
Absolutely.
who you are.
And Paul is living proof of this.
Absolutely.
Paul's our elder here, and
Oh,
you lived the story, right?
and we're all pretty dangle.
Yes,
All of us
what's
are.
up?
Best day ever.
35.
And now this.
I mean, in terms of like just seeing everything change,
Change
Oh,
through the time.
yes.
Yes,
your
Oh,
character
yeah.
talks about in the film.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he told me his character.
Absolutely.
That scene moved me again last night. He told me that's how he, and I knew where I wrote that where that character came from.
I knew a
You
lot
know,
of gay elders in the panhandle of Texas. They're old cowboys and whatnot, again, that come from that, again, even movies is, there was large, like, Brokeback Mountain, Brokeback Mountain, they were, like, totally understood what that was like, because they lived through that, being around, our elder um gay community. I've been around older gay cowboys as well. I live in that part of the country, and just to hear and learn from our elder gay community is
Mhm.
so
Oh,
important.
absolutely.
Actually, and it was, Ace London who was in, the last
Best day ever.
Best Day Ever, but his book was there that in the film, there's a little plug for it, but Ace told me on his deathbed an incredible story
Hmm.
about what it was like. He had fallen in love with some guy, but he was in the closet, and so he was married to this woman, and then there was the mob because basically they would raid the bars, and then you had to pay them off so
Hmm.
you wouldn't like it was not fun
No,
back in the closet day,
no,
you know.
I can't imagine that. Well,
so the movie is streaming right now. It's on Prime, Amazon Prime,
Amazon
and
Prime,
And
Gay Bench
Gay Bench
TV.
Gay
TV.
Binge
Yeah,
TV again.
and we're talking to we're talking to Tubi, we're talking to some other places.
Tubi's
Wow.
great again. And well, again, thank you all for joining us here in Las Vegas. It was just is an honor to be a part of this film and to share some of our home community
You're
here with you
wonderful in the
all.
film
Oh,
too.
no.
Yeah.
Oh,
You made such an amazing
Oh,
cast.
you all are so kind. It was, you see when you want to say those things, it was a pleasure. It was just something I felt like I was part of this. It was at a very pivotal part of my own life journey. I lost my mom during this, so
mhm,
I'll always have that on film. I'll always have
mhm.
that
Yeah.
memory. I even watching the scenes. I was watching the scene that had BJ when Messick, and I remember that day. That was when I got the phone call.
Yeah.
So
I think
there's
we
some
were
moments
filming that
of
scene
it.
with me and BJ, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's just those moments I was just like, that took me back last night. I got a little emotional. Not the film
Mm.
itself. And again, it's dealing with such heavy subject matter when you're going through some personal things at the time. It can take you in different ways. It was,
And
I'm glad I was there.
Yeah.
Glad we got to do this. I'm glad to have shared this experience with you all. And again, it's a pleasure to have you guys here
And
to
it was
share our
healing for
community
me
here with you.
too. Cause I had taken care of my dad with
I
Alzheimer's,
remember
and
telling you that.
I just realized this last night.
Wow,
Like, I always knew it was cathartic or whatever, but I realized that I actually gained compassion for myself
you do.
by having the experience of
It
being in
puts
the film
things in
because I was like,
perspective.
oh gosh, that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
and Ron,
Well,
even for you knowing that you had a job that you still had to do, that
I
you didn't
did.
Oh
step away
I
gosh.
from
had to
anything
film
that
that
Yeah.
scene the
you
next day.
performed. Being a script
On the final
supervisor,
day,
working on
I
set,
had to do that scene. But again,
it
it
shows in
was
the
great.
passion, the love of what you're
Again, it
doing.
was such a beautiful experience. The film, the both premieres. Again, Jay had put together the premiere in
LA.
Los Angeles. Great
Hollywood.
time in
Yeah.
Hollywood, and then having you guys here just let loose and have some fun in Las Vegas. Thank you all for joining us here, and
Thank you.
thank you for
Thank you, Ron.
sharing your beautiful souls with us and for joining us here today on on Take One. Thank you. It's always a
Thank
pleasure to
you.
do this.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank you.
take a break here and
Yeah.
we'll bring on next Johnny Molinaro, who works on the Las Vegas Indie Film Community's monthly meetings, and we'll be right back.